Good afternoon, everybody. Graveless here, doing the first video of my new tutorial series, which is going to go over the 2026 scenario and how to play different openings. I'm not going to be doing a full example for these because it hasn't changed all that much from 2022 with a few notable exceptions. And I also realized that I'm going to have to mark the old series old and the new series new where that changes. I will probably eventually get to that on YouTube. Sorry if I don't for some time. Anyway, 2026 scenario. Game has been updated with this scenario. It's going to be actually open in the full release. There's a way to do a config edit in order to have access to it now, which is what I did in order to get this. The big thing is that values have been updated to real-world values, and well, let's just say that we here in the US are dedicated to shooting ourselves in the foot on every available opportunity, and this is reflected in-game pretty damn well, I think. The US, which is by far the dominant meta pick in 2022, has been brought down from its lofty perch as the best opener into being very complicated compared to the others. The big problem with the US in 2026 is this 1.3 or 1.25 cohesion that is rapidly going down. The reason why this is a problem is that you're not going to be able to get into the US fast enough to fix this cohesion without basically a god luck start. And even then, it's highly RNG whether or not you can delay events, like events will be delayed long enough to let you fix it. This is because you cannot gain cohesion through wars being declared on you or you declaring wars when your cohesion is less than 2. There's an exploit for this that, if you're on the Discord and know Raidwa, the big exploiter par excellence, found that we suspect is getting patched out, so I'm not even going to bother reporting on that one. So the big thing with the US in 2026 is what you see is what you get. You're going to be spending basically all of your first 2 years attempting to fix this cohesion problem. Your stats are not going to grow. Your stats from the nation are not going to grow basically at all because of how bad this is. I tried using the knowledge method that I did before. The gain was not enough. Well, first off, you have to get this inequality down. And the gain was not enough to get me over 2 with the number of events that lower your cohesion coming out in the early game. That being said, the US has insane amounts of boost. 8 boost is enough that you don't even need to build more boost until you get to admin towers. So you don't need to care about that. It also still does, even with these cohesion problems, have the best research, like far and away at the start of the game. US opener, you're going to be more in control of the tech tree. You're going to be more able to pivot into technologies you want, and once you get it fixed, it's still, a research behemoth. Another problem, the fact that we're wealthier is bad. Our CP cap has not increased, but the expense to hold the US has. So you're going to be holding fewer other nations while you're desperately trying to fix the US. And like I said, that unfortunately is an RNG fest. In 7 attempts, I managed to get the US above 2 cohesion once, and there I was able to declare a war, and then Wave of Fear happened and ate most of the cohesion gains, and I went right back to fixing cohesion. So yeah, US opener, expect to be running multiple years worth of welfare. Welfare, unity, and knowledge just to fix it before you can start building MC. The big thing that I would recommend with the US opener is you take your tech path. Rather than going into space as much, you really need to tech into Arrival International Relations, Unity Movements, and Fall of Empires to get all of these increased CP techs, because you're going to need to grab another nation to handle your mission control while the US burns. There's a later option that I think is the strongest opener in 2026, far and away, that I'll get to after that. But let us move on from the US to China. Similar to the US, China has gotten better in some ways and worse in others, and the ways it's worse are exactly the same as the way it's worse in the US. So first off, China has a great amount of boost. This is not an amount of boost that will completely carry you, but this is a solid enough amount of boost that you won't need to build boost for a while, and if you get lucky with boost orgs, you're not going to need to build boost until, like, the late early game or early mid game. Problems. China also has a massive cohesion problem. This is because in 2022, China's resting value was about the same, but it started off at like 7 or 8 cohesion, so you had several years worth of degeneration before you had to worry about fixing China's cohesion. That's not true now. You're probably going to want to use Unity to get yourself up to like 50, 60% public support to get this up to 4, and to be running a little bit of welfare in addition to whatever else you're trying to do to fix China. Luckily, the emissions problems are not as bad. Because China in real life has actually done a wonderful job of fixing their emissions. Like, I'm truly impressed by it. But it is what it is. Similar to the US, China also got wealthier, and this is a massive problem for China, because if you take all 6 points at the beginning, you are going to be so over CP cap you can't hire new counselors. Like, look at this. That's 240, 252 CP cap. That's expensive. You're, again, not holding anything else. Luckily, you don't really need to hold anything else with China, unlike the US, because China can just throw into MC, throw into education, throw into what you need, because its cohesion problems are significantly less bad than the US's are. And also, you can fix them with wars. You may, in fact, need to fix some of China's cohesion problems with wars, unlike 2022. So, China... On net, I think China is a little bit worse of a start than it used to be, but it's still a good start. Next up, the EU. The EU, I feel, is in roughly the same place, and the numbers for my test games back that up. The EU is still a mission control and funding monster. Its biggest problems are, one, it has atrocious RP. This is in part, again, because member states are wealthier, you're holding less of them, and their... research point to control point cost ratios are not good. With the EU, you're going to struggle to control the tech tree, but you're also going to have as much MC as you possibly, as you could ever want. You play the EU start pretty much the same as you did before. Take France, take either small nations or large nations, feed them into the EU, take more nations, feed them into the EU. One unique problem with the EU start is you have obvious places to put every spare CP cap, while China is just sitting there open for the AI to grab. And once the AI has China, it's really hard to get them out of China. But EU start still pretty solid. The last one, the nation with the biggest glow up by far is India. I actually think the India start is now better than the EU start. Let me get to that. So looking at India now, big differences. First off, they're a lot wealthier. This matters because in the 2022 start, you need to build India's wealth up to the point where it can fix its own cohesion. Right now, India is almost at fixing its own cohesion just from the start of the game. Also, its cohesion doesn't need that much fixing. Now, it still does have unrest problems. If you do an India start, you're going to have a command counselor dedicated to keeping unrest down in India and its neighboring nations. So you probably want 2 command counselors. But the India start is actually really solid. It's sort of a balance between all of them, where it has the worst boost of all of them, which is actually bad. However, unlike the other starts, you can easily just hold Singapore and have it build nothing but boost for a while because it, costs less to hold. China and the US cannot hold Singapore. The EU could, but they would rather hold another EU member state. India can just take Singapore and use it as a massive boost producer. For that matter, Maldives doesn't have enough boost, never mind. Or any of the other equatorial boost producers. Second benefit to India. India can easily federate with Bangladesh and Pakistan because of claims on regions. You can't unify with them, but if you take all 3, you can skip the cost of founding a space program in these 2 and build 13 MC while India's doing whatever it is you want India to do. In fact, we are focusing only on MC start. India almost matches the EU in how much MC it produces, which neither China nor the US can get anywhere near close to. Which, honestly, incredibly impressive. It can still develop into a decent research powerhouse. It can still develop economically. As said, India's big weakness is boost, but you make up for that a bit in part with Singapore, and yeah. Overall, India, great start. Another problem with the India start is it's easy enough to get into that the AI might just YOLO a 20% chance to get into India and take one of your points and then be really obnoxious to get out. So, brief warning on that part. That happened during my first India attempt. The servants, I actually used console commands to reveal what was going on. They actually YOLO'd a 20% chance and got it. Oh, the tea of the day today is Cinnabon tea. Very delicious, very festive, and still fall wintry tea. But those are the main four, notably good starts. However, there is still one start to rule them all. And that start is the US into China start, where you grab the US, use the US for nothing but running spoils, let it implode, and use that spoils money to get into China. What I found when testing this is that if you focus on China by itself, you will usually get into China somewhere around July or August. If you instead get into the US first and spoil it to hell, you'll probably get into China around September. In exchange for delaying getting into China by 1 month, which functionally does not matter that much. That's, probably you get all of your CP a month slower. That's at least what I found. So you're down 1 MC. You exchange that for around 50 to 60 boost and around 50k money, along with having complete control of the early tech tree until you get into China, and China has lower research than the US, though still better research than either of the EU or India. So, taking the US, ruining the US, spoiling it to hell and back, then dropping it, ignoring it, and taking China, I think is the single strongest start in 2026. And, I think it's not even a joke. This start is just so stupidly powerful. And the main reason it's stupidly powerful is because you get into China barely slower than you would get into China normally. And that's not enough time for the Protectorate to get their big research their big +4 persuasion research off, or the servants to train up one of their early research counselors train up one of their early persuasion counselors to persuasion 15 and start making rolls, or for the aliens to just hand China to them. So yeah, that is my quick and easy summation for 2026. If you want a giant RNG fest struggle with a lot of research and a lot of boost, take the US. If you want a lot of MC, take the EU, though warning, you're going to struggle with research and boost. India can sort of do whatever you want it to, but it starts off very bad in terms of boost. But it was clearly the second best start in terms of MC. India's MC actually does beat the US into China start, but not by that much. The pure China start and the pure US start, India destroys in terms of MC. And if you want what I think is the strongest start in the game, you take the US, run 100% spoils in it, and use that spoil money to take China. Anyway, I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are, because I do actually think this is a much healthier place for the game to be than you take the US rules everything, and eventually you take either the EU or China. And I hope you all had a good one. Bye!